Okay, so it is 7 o'clock on December 16th, and we're going to call to order the Townsend Housing Authority meeting. Can I get a roll call, please?
Natalie Call present.
Laura Schifrin present.
Chaz Sexton Duranian present.
And Courtney Riley present. So this meeting is being recorded. And can we do the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. 1.5 Chairman's additions and deletions to the agenda. I don't have any as of right now, unless anyone else has any. Okay. 1.6 State Representative Report.
Really the only thing I had right now would be for the MBTA commuter, but we can do that in that item. I had gone to 2 state meetings and there's nothing really to report. It was really kind of year-end stuff and in next year planning. I know that in January and February, there'll be some things I'll be bringing forward to you guys that we can start working on. But I just want to get the housing production plan rolling here.
Great. And with that, I know we're fast here, Andrew, but we'll go to number 2, housing production plan update. So thank you for sending out the draft. I have to say it is, it's really great to see it, and it's, really well done. And I appreciate a lot of the resources, especially sprinkled in throughout, and kind of giving us some direction once we get into this on where to go with that. So I don't know if anybody else has any comments before we jump in.
If I may.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I noticed on page 12, I think it has like the goals of how we're going to do things for 22, 23, 20, for each of the years. And of course, the first thing under it was planning, zoning, etc. And of course, nothing was filled in those years. But since, and this is, thank you, Chaz, for that forward on the governor's new law that's come into effect, whatever it is, 358. And that definitely, I think, is going to have an impact. If this is becoming law, that means that the towns, cities, whatever, municipalities need to fall in line with this new law. And so my question is, are we going to be referencing this new law that's coming into effect in January in our housing production plan? That's my question.
Okay. And then Andrew, if I can, it is the new section 3A of Mass General Law, Chapter 40A. And it's A1 and B and C, actually.
Yeah, okay. Well, in regards to that matrix, yeah, that will be, we're going to fill that out next for the final draft.
I like it. I mean, I like what you've done so far.
Yeah, I must admit that I'm not totally up to speed on that law. I need to speak to Jen about it, obviously, but certainly I suspect that it would be incorporated into the timeline.
Okay. The law just quite simply is that it's the MBTA community, but the bill is a new multifamily zoning requirement for MBTA communities.
Okay.
And Lori, are you talking about the chapter 358?
Yes, Yes, that's why, oh, yeah, that, because that was the number I remembered. I wasn't remembering what you were rattling off just now.
Okay.
But that 358 is what I remembered, and that has to do with planning and zoning.
Yes, okay, so this is, the bill that Lori is referencing is the housing choice zoning
Okay.
reforms to better enable municipalities to adopt certain zoning measures that promote housing by a simple majority vote as opposed to,
Mhm.
that's what she's referencing. So Lori, you saying that you want to make sure that that's incorporated in the housing production plan as well?
Yeah, I mean, since that goes into effect the first month of 2022, and this is our new plan, we should acknowledge it, I think.
Mhm.
Yep.
And our recommendations should be that we follow it, again, in accordance to what our Board of Health would allow versus being more restrictive than what our Board of Health would allow.
Right, and Courtney, just, I guess an FYI, this is rooted in a simple principle where the majority consensus in communities around increasing housing production so that a minority of voters cannot block a zoning reform. So it's really designed so that a small minority, because it was two-thirds majority, and that's what was happening with a lot of, especially in smaller communities like Townsend.
Now, is that, Andrew, you have a reference to something that's sounds like it's really similar on page 21. Is this a similar thing that we are talking about right now?
Let me go to page 21 here.
It's kind of in a blue, box.
Yeah, that's the housing choice. That's the same thing. Yeah, the housing
Okay.
choice legislation. Yeah. That decreases the threshold like Chaz was just explaining. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's mentioned in there in that box. As far as the new legislation, and that does apply to multifamily accessory dwelling units and 40R, but not inclusionary zoning. We found out recently, actually. So that would, for what it's worth, since that was also something we had talked about in there, that's not covered by the housing choice 2/3. It still requires a 2/3 for passing inclusionary zoning. So yeah, it's covered in that box. It'll definitely be, if there's changes that need to take place in certain times, I suppose we can do that. But since it'll come into effect in January, I guess it would be in effect for anything in that time matrix as well. Cool. All right. So are there other immediate questions people have? Would you like to go through the goals and strategies chapter, or if everybody's read it, we could just talk about it, or whatever would work the best for you all.
So going over the HPP goals, is that where we're?
Well, yeah, I mean, as far as what's different from the last draft, aside from some slight revisions in the later chapters that we had already talked about, it's chapter 2 that's new. Basically, it's the sort of final fleshed out version of the goals and strategies that we discussed based on your feedback from the draft ones at the last meeting.
Okay.
But we can read through them if you'd like, and see if people have comments.
Can we do that with a screen share, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm going to need to have that enabled though.
Give me a moment, I'll take care of that. That's
Cool.
Andrew, you want the screen share, correct?
Yeah, please. Thank you.
One moment. Okay, you should have it.
Okay. I'm going to share the right thing here.
And Andrew, as part of, I know you guys were saying that the next piece is to start filling out, the timeline on when these things will happen. Are we going to kind of talk through that a bit today too?
Yeah, I haven't done a lot of that. so far.
No, understood. I didn't know if we were strategizing around it at all to assist you with it, I guess is what I would.
Well, we can, if people have specific timelines in mind for these things. Yeah, we could definitely talk about that. Okay, so, the other thing that was not there before, in case it's worth mentioning, is that chapter 1 is filled out, but it's basically just an executive summary that has the main points from every other chapter. So it's really like exactly the same points, just put up here in a summary form, so you can have that for a shorter document. So the goals are here. Okay. Promote incremental housing production to meet the state's goals and preserve existing affordable units. I think this was the same numbers that we had in the previous one. Okay, the second one, address changing local needs, including an aging population with a greater variety of housing options as alternative to conventional single-family houses. So this, it's everything, a lot of things we've been talking about over the past few months, particularly the need for some smaller housing options, and the sort of conversation we had about apartments, as well as about suggestions for simplifying ADU procedure. Continue to promote a variety of housing options, including affordable opportunities for older adults to downsize, and accessible and service-enriched housing for individuals and families with special needs.
I think that's great.
Number 3, minimize environmental impacts of new development by promoting new housing options. So this is, relating to all the sort of stuff we've talked about with the environmental constraints, which we mentioned here. 89.6% of Townsend has environmental constraints, which are all listed, mostly obviously water related. And then we called out this area that we talked about in the last meeting, Town Center, West Townsend, and along Route 119. And we've added that to the map, which I'll show you in a minute.
Andrew, really minor thing, but in the third paragraph, I think right after south of Route 119, I think that's supposed to be near Blood Road.
Oh, sorry.
Yes. I can send you that later if you like.
Cool. Thanks for that. I assumed it was something that came up in spell check.
Yeah.
So yes, this is describing that area as shown in the map, which we'll look at in a minute, and potential reuse of existing building stock. Number 4, support older adult residents, veterans, and other vulnerable populations by promoting affordable, accessible housing and needed support services. So this is pretty much what it says: assisting older residents, veterans, and vulnerable populations with housing costs, including fuel, taxes, transportation, rent, and expand assistance to provide more support. So this is, yeah, here we are. And number 5, increase Townsend's capacity to implement housing initiatives through enhanced local and regional coordination and community outreach. So this had to do with increased revenue and future revenue for the trust, community outreach, and coordination among local and regional entities, and potentially with developers, which was one of the goals or the strategies that we talked about a few times, as I recall.
Yep. And I like it. It's clear, it's concise, and it's measurable. And I think those are the things that I was concerned about. So good job on that.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think hopefully each of these is broad enough to be like a goal without being overly specific, but then they can all be drilled down to strategies down here. So yep. Any other thoughts on the goals before we move on? Yeah.
Just in your first one, if you could scroll up where you gave, because it just caught my eye, one in the first sentence, a minimum of 17 homes annually that count on the subsidized housing inventory. Yeah, our goal is 10%, but do we know, I haven't checked this recently, but did you find out like how many permits were issued in Townsend for new housing in the last 3 years, let's say?
Yeah, I believe it's in here somewhere. Let me find it. that would have been somewhere in the 40s here.
I think we talked about it before, but it's not that I have anything against the 17.
Mhm.
I just don't know the last time we had 17 permits in a year for new housing.
For new housing, yeah.
For new housing, yeah. I'm not, yeah. Here. No,
I mean,
I've got-
ideally, yeah, I'd love to see that, but this just takes so many, basically because we don't have the option of the HUD
Mhm.
funds any longer. And we have tried to create 50 units for a number of years, and for one reason or another did not pass. It's going to take so much more than just the housing authority
Mhm.
to get this accomplished.
Yeah, I think that also, you know, the idea of these being added to the SHI doesn't necessarily mean they would all have to be new, which is, you know, but yes, it is a lot of work to get it done for sure. I think, you know, the part of the thought of, you know, ADUs or of just like, you know, existing affordable housing stock, I think was involved there. But I don't see that number in here. I can look it up. I'm sure it's somewhere, but I scroll through this document for half an hour to find it.
Okay, so and I'm not really asking you to do that now. I'm just bringing it up because
Yes, absolutely.
I just want to make those comments
Yeah.
now. And I'm not saying that we should change it. I'm just saying, you know, are we being realistic?
Mhm.
I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure. Okay. Thanks for that, for sure. And we'll have a chat about it and see. I'll see what Jen thinks about it too. Okay. So we've basically taken the majority of the goals and strategies from the draft. Some of them were reworded and a couple of them were combined and moved around, but the fundamental sort of structure is the same. But they're all written up with a lot more detail, so I can go through that.
That looks great. I can see where she combined, or where you guys combined everything, and then that's perfect.
Cool. And here's the new map. So this was we've called out a few slightly different things here, including this potential 40-hour district. And this was basically just the sort of line we drew at the last meeting. And it's not, you know, exact, but it was encompassing downtown and town center and West Townsend, and this kind of area here just as a sort of potential, you know, looking into the future type thing. And then in addition to this parcel, which we had talked about down here, which was a town-owned parcel, 19 acres with very little access to the road. We also put on the map the other town-owned properties that were transferred to the trust here, and here. So those are going to be discussed later in the chapter, but those are the additions to the map from last time. So that's all there.
I like that. What do you think of that, Lori?
I like it, especially the color.
Yeah.
And hopefully that means for good things, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to be optimistic with the color scheme. Also, I wanted to, you know, we wanted to separate the aquifer and groundwater. I think we did on the last one as well, but it's because there may be considerations for one and not the other, depending on what, you know, what's in question. So,
but it looks more clear. I like it though.
I think it's easier to see what's going on that way.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the write-up of the strategies. It's the same as the ones in the matrix there, of course. So this is the first one talking about removing the affordability requirements for ADUs, and starts with the sort of explanation of ADUs in general, and then, you know, the discussion here about whether or not having them be required to be affordable, you know, and that we felt like that was probably creating a barrier to the creation of them because of the, you know, regulatory process and administrative responsibilities there. So this is you know, there's a long discussion of the flexibility, the potential for more flexibility in the ADU requirement, and that's where this housing choice legislation comes in as well, because as was mentioned, now there's only a simple majority required to pass changes to ADU requirements, legislation and zoning, et cetera.
Excuse me,
Yeah,
on that one where you do have that, and I'm sorry I missed that before.
that's
but
okay.
Courtney caught it. Can you put the date that is effective in that box,
Yes.
either under the heading or somewhere, so that it's a rough, people will know when it takes effect when they see the document?
Yeah, for sure. Great idea. We'll definitely put that in there. Okay. So that is the ADU section, considering allowing more flexibility, removing the affordability requirement, a special permit option for properties that do not meet the minimum lot area. Oh yeah, that was another thing that that came up, I think, when we were talking about some of the lot areas, and that also relates to the water situation, which I had a conversation with Rick Neshoba, sorry, from the Neshoba Associated Boards of Health, Rick
Metcalf.
Metcalf, yeah.
So that's summarized in here in the next one, actually, right here. So work with the Board of Health to investigate alternative and innovative individual or shared wastewater treatment systems and potential regulatory changes, such as to create more flexibility in the regulations for areas with minimal environmental constraints. And I spoke to Rick about it, and he explained some developments that had taken place that had gotten where the Townsend Board of Health had granted variance for shared septic systems, and you know, but his overall thought was that the Board of Health wouldn't really be interested in making substantial changes to the requirements and the regulations, except that they seem to be open to granting variances for projects where shared septic was recommended or required. And so that was sort of the main thing that he pulled out of the Townsend regulations, was about the possibility of making it easier to have shared systems.
So
Albert Smith Way, here's the one here that we talked about.
what was meant by this issue will be somewhat improved by 2024, at which point the water supply system will expand to serve the whole town?
Yeah, so one thing that came up in conversation with the city engineer, I believe it was that there's a plan for the water supply to be expanded townwide by around 2024. And one of the things that Rick mentioned was that there's stricter regulations on a state level when a property is covered by both, has a well and has a septic system. Whereas if there's just a septic system, but they have a water supply from, piped in, then that can alleviate some of the need for, the distance between those things and other sort of requirements along those lines. So
That's true.
So the idea being that by, now like half the town has water supply, and by 2024, if the whole town has water supply, that may ease some of the pressure on that side of things.
Chaz?
Yeah, what town engineer are you talking about? Who were you speaking with? Was it the water superintendent?
I speak with, maybe it was. It's also in here. I didn't do that interview. It was Barry, I believe. Where's the water
Yes, but
section?
wouldn't you know about that as far as, wouldn't the Board of Selectmen know about, a plan like that for 4 years from now?
Well, let's just say that there's nothing been approved, so I don't really think the date should be put in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or year should be put in there.
Okay, that
This
is.
is something that because we have the Board of Water Commissioners, and that would be the board that would be able to say that date. So if it was the water and superintendent who did, I would say it's not something that we could report on or put in. I wouldn't feel comfortable putting in a report.
Okay, it was the Townsend Water Superintendent here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think the water superintendent may have the idea that it's going to be that way, but it's really the water commissioners are the ones that would be making a statement. You know what I mean? You have to clear it from the commissioners before anything else.
okay,
And that would have, if that were to be true in like 3 years from now,
mhm,
that would make a huge impact in possible building,
mhm. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
somehow we'd have to have that more, I don't know, it would have to be more, you know what I mean? It would have to be an approved kind of thing, as Chaz said. And I mean, I'd love to see it if this were true, but I think it's more involved
Mhm,
to say that for the whole town
mhm.
when half is only
It sounds
surface.
aggressive to me.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that is to think you're gonna do another 50% in 3 years.
Mhm.
Well,
Um,
I'd also, Andrew, like to be able to bring this to the water commissioners to have them fact check this for us
Okay.
too.
Mhm.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah, great, Chaz. That's a good idea.
I just create all this kind of work for myself, don't I?
Yeah, well, that's good to know. I just got the notes from that meeting from Barry when he left, and so that's great to double check on that for sure. Thank you. And
Because the other thing too, if I may, because I'm
yes,
thinking
absolutely.
right at the same time, is that the water commissioners, or not, excuse me, the water department, I don't know who, prepared their own master plan chapter.
Mhm.
So I would suggest that you get a copy of their chapter that they wrote and then compare it to this interview and see what you come up with.
Okay,
Thank you.
we'll do that.
Is that water chapter available to us, Lori, or is it, do I have to?
Yeah.
ask about-
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I might have the Townsend master plan somewhere in my database here, but if not, then we can definitely get it.
Well, we're still working on it. Well, you
Oh,
have
I
the
see, okay.
2000
True.
you have the 2001.
Yeah, whatever.
Actually, my diary is much more comprehensive than that.
Well, let's not go there. So yeah, there is, there was.
Yeah, it is the 2001 that I have, by the way, yes.
Okay.
2001.
Yeah, that's the last voted one.
Oh, fine. But I mean, the current plan that's been updated 12 times now, I think, and may still be dated November 2021. There is a water department chapter that they drafted themselves. There was not anyone on the committee itself that drafted that chapter.
Okay,
So I'm gonna say, and I did read it once. I can't tell you where it is right now, but I think it's still part of that. But if it's not in the full one, which Jody can help you get what we now have,
Mhm.
then Beth has it. I
Okay.
know you got it. I know I saw it in an email.
Okay, great.
That would be really interesting between those two things. If
Yeah,
you
for sure.
get something,
And I know that there's a water master plan that has been floating around, but again, I'm a stickler on making sure that it's approved by the water commissioners or, who the powers that be before something can be released.
Mhm.
Andrew, that's my only concern.
Mhm.
Because I don't want us to have something in here and then somebody come back and say, we haven't voted on that yet.
Right,
So I just
absolutely.
want to make sure that we have the accurate information.
Right, agreed.
Okay, so we'll have a look at that draft chapter and but we'll make sure to double check before we put anything in here that's from an unapproved thing, and also like to deal with this interview and its potential inaccuracy.
Yeah. Or accuracy.
Or yeah, who knows? We'll see.
Who knows? I'm not saying either or, but I just want to make sure that we're saying the right thing here.
Yeah.
But no, good. I'm glad that you touched base with Neshoba and they gave you their overview. That makes me feel good too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he said that a lot of like each town has their own thing going on, so it's but that it didn't. I didn't get the idea that there was substantial changes that he felt could be made really based on the state regulations, basically.
Right, and that's kind of where I wanted to, since this is going to DHCD, I want to make sure that
Yeah, exactly, and yeah, and aside from well, the two things we put in here, the potential for not having the both systems on the property as well as shared systems, but he said that in general there was concern over the shared systems being used by like adjacent property owners, which has caused problems in the past, or instead of for like a planned development, but in the case of a planned development where there would be multiple people using the same system, that they've let that happen in the past. So
yeah, because we also have Courtney did some great work in regards to pocket neighborhoods and cluster neighborhoods as well, and if they are even have that on a potential, then we're in the right direction.
cool.
Especially if there's going to be town water going by that particular area.
Bingo.
It opens up so many opportunities for housing in areas where there aren't any now. So that's why it's so important for this to be accurate, because it could really help our housing production.
Yep.
Maybe not affordable housing, but certainly some housing production, which we're behind on. So, yeah.
Great, cool. All right, well, I've written this all down, so we'll get to work on all that. Anything else on water? Shall I move on?
Yep.
Okay. Consider amendments to zoning regulations to create more flexibility for new housing development in areas with minimal environmental constraints. So that's basically referring to the map again, and the potential for an overlay to waive underlying density and dimensional requirements. So yeah, that also had, I think we had talked about looking at some of those other lots, and those other lots are described later as well. And we've put in an example from Dennis here. And there was this recommendation to work with an architect to create some specific design standards too, which would ensure architectural compatibility.
Know anybody there, Courtney?
Maybe. Well, a little overloaded right now, but yeah.
Okay, number 4, adopt local guidelines for development applications for the local initiative program. So this is just an overview of that program. There's some examples here from Medfield. Yeah, any questions on that one? Okay, number 5 is the 40R district potential overlay, which was in a map that we just saw. Smuggler zoning overlay district. So this is just an overview of 40R, what it is, how it works, and here's the full THCD chapter on that.
Yeah, no, I like that as well.
Consider zoning amendments to allow for development of affordable housing on non-conforming lots. So that was sort of came out, I think, the discussion we had as well about some of those owned town-owned non-conforming lots, but just in general. You know, assuming you have water and everything, there's possibilities there. Inclusionary zoning. So that this is basically just recommending a study to see what, what would work in Townsend along the inclusionary zoning lines. We talked about that at the last meeting as well. And there's some examples. All these have a bunch of examples. Yeah.
Excuse me on that, just a question.
Yeah, sure.
Who would do this study? The inclusionary zoning? How would that happen?
I'm not sure. I suppose.
MRPC.
Yeah.
I was going to say, could we get a grant for that, do you think?
I'm looking into the possibility of, because we talked a little bit about the DLTAs.
Yeah.
That might be something we could look into. There are, because the governor is focusing on increasing housing, there may be some other things coming out in 2022 that would be able to allow us for planning as well.
Right. So when our housing production plan would go to the state.
Mm-hmm.
So, and based on that acceptance, we could act upon these different studies within a plan and try to get those financed or done through MRPC.
Right, and this is why I'm going to say this again on record, that this is why it's so important that our master plan matches up with our housing production plan, so that when we do, we can refer to both documents to the state. That's only going to strengthen our applications.
Right, agreed. It's been stated. Karen just said it at our last MRPC meeting, actually, where she gave a slide presentation, and I had wanted that sent to Townsend Housing Planning and Zoning. That presentation was so great and so detailed of what we've done and where we stand as a town.
Yep.
So, okay, so I understand that. Okay, the other thing I wanted to bring up tonight in reference to the master plan, and Chaz, you could answer this better than because I just didn't fathom how you would put like a document this, I don't know how many pages this is now, but this size as a chapter. We can't use the housing production plan in full as a chapter in the master plan. This is just so much more detailed and visionary than what was written for us.
Mm-hmm.
as a planning board, I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Could, in your opinion, if the THA voted it, the board voted it, could we insert part of this plan into the master plan so that they do correlate with one another?
First off, I would need to make sure that Jen and Andrew are in agreement on using their material to put in there. We'd have to give them credit, number one. Number two is, I would think that the data that MRPC has provided, and well, let me take a few steps back. I understand what you're saying here, and I agree. Technically, how I envision it, and Andrew, please correct me if I'm wrong in this the way I'm viewing it. But the housing production plan should be a blowout of what the housing chapter is from the master plan. So the master plan has these general increase housing. I mean, the master plan all it needs to do is say you need to increase housing. We are in our housing production plan saying how we are going to increase housing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a paragraph in the master plan. I didn't get to the whole chapter because I didn't find it, but on page 30, I think it is, of the master plan itself, there's a paragraph that basically says that. It's only a paragraph, like 4 or 5 sentences, that basically says that we have to increase our plan. There's no detail to that one. And I thought, and I could be wrong again, but I thought it was like a 2-pager in the master plan, not just a paragraph. So
well, my thoughts, Lori, is that I wouldn't mind sharing the goals of what the housing production plan is, and those goals can be put in the master plan and reference that in the 2022 master plan, you know, the housing authority has blah, blah, blah. Right, Andrew, just to put the goals in there on what we want to focus on.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I mean, conceptually, the idea would be that this would explain the overarching things that you have in your master plan. And so in that sense, it would sort of, you know, by definition, be incorporated in there. I mean, you know what I mean? It's sort of, at least philosophically speaking, because you would have, you know, if this is the most updated, when this is approved and it's the most updated HPP, then that would sort of function in that way. If you were to drill down from the master plan, this would be the next place to go, I think.
Right.
okay.
So what I could do, Lori, is that I don't have a problem, or we don't have a problem. I don't think the housing authority can work with the planning board when we get to that housing chapter to help out. I don't see any problems with that at all.
Okay. Just wanted to bring it up.
Okay, no, I collaboration is really the way in which I think we all need to be moving forward. And the town right now is doing such a good job at that. I definitely want to continue.
And it is important that these things, you know, do match up with each other. And I think it's good to think about that in a larger sense too, particularly like you were saying, like with even the things like the water situation. Okay, where do we leave off here? Okay, so that's the first section of strategies. Now is the second one, so that was the sort of policy, and here we have the initiative and programmatic strategies. And here is the thing we talked about on those parcels. So and you can correct me if this is wrong, but as I saw on the spreadsheet that Jody, I believe, sent, it was this year that those properties were transferred to the Affordable Housing Trust. Is that?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
it's been approved to go there, but they haven't officially been transferred yet. That, you know, the transaction hasn't been done. And well, I'll just give you the nitty gritty on it. The Affordable Housing Trust needs money to be able to legally transfer those properties over. So we are using ARPA funds to do that, and we haven't released those funds so that they can take any action on it yet. Because we have to have a process involved to get the ARPA funds to the trust or the nonprofit, so that then they can do that. So our goal is to do that. So in October 2021, we agreed to do it, but we haven't done anything yet.
Okay, I'll update that.
The statement's correct. The statement as written is correct.
Yeah.
The town meeting approved it, and that you've outlined what those properties are, and all of those are a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
That have been done since the last plan.
And in that first sentence, Andrew, after TAHT, it's for, not fur.
God, sorry. Okay, page 25. I'll make a note here. Yeah, okay. I could we can put a sentence in that just explains what you just said there, Chaz, for clarity as well. So yeah, this details the properties. We just described them and, you know, suggested next steps on those. Create a process to maintain updated inventory of tax title properties.
I love these references to further information. That's awesome that you have those in there. That's really important.
Cool.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. I appreciate it, and I'm glad that they're going to be useful. So yeah, this is tax titles. There is a list, but I think this is more about maintaining that list. You sent us the list as it was, I believe. Veterans housing, that reflects that earlier goal we talked about. These are some yeah, existing more examples here. And block grants here to maintain this. So this has the rehab. This is talking about the rehab program. And yeah, that's something that has been going on for a long time there, I believe, right? So this is more about maintaining that.
We plan to continue that.
And then the final section. Oh, sorry. Any questions on that section, or we can go on to the third section. All right. Final section is capacity education and coordination. This relates back to the ADUs, but we moved it down here into the educational section. Just some examples on some pamphlets and websites that can be used to encourage ADU development, or just to educate people about what it means and what it might, you know, do for them. Collaborate regionally with neighboring towns and MRPC. So that was another thing we talked about at the last meeting.
Yeah, with the 40Bs, yeah.
Yeah. And CPA, and we talked about that before.
Can you go back up a little bit?
What's that?
Can you go back up a little bit? It's right here on 13, the second paragraph. Second sentence in the housing authority, not housing authority board.
Oh, okay. Board. Right. I also just noticed that this says there are several components.
Yeah.
All right. So CPA, yeah, that's, you know, that's on the table, of course. I mean, it's a great funding source, but I know you voted on it a lot of times, so we sort of acknowledge that down here. But, you know, would recommend thinking about it again, along with maybe some education to see if it might be more feasible now, since it's been quite a while.
No.
Since the last vote. Here we have the new land use coordinator position, which I just saw popped up on the Mass Planners listserv the other day. So it's there. And 16 is, sources of funding for the Affordable Housing Trust. So that would, you know, go back to CPA, inclusionary zoning, ARPA funds, which I know you're already talking about.
Yeah.
And then some ideas about collaborations with developers in response to another conversation we had about trying to improve relationships between the town and developers. 18 is the last one, designate the Housing Authority Board as a local HPP oversight entity, just to sort of in the plan implementation side of things, make sure that things
right. So it's just the Housing Authority. It's not a board.
Oh, sorry.
Well, it is the board, but
yeah. Authority, not board. Yeah, that happened twice, didn't it? Okay. Lower that one down. So yeah, the next thing
happens in the next. I think it's throughout the document, because
Okay.
if the action plan, it's right there, the Housing Authority Board.
Yeah. Okay. I'll go through and search for the word board and make sure that we clear that up. So yeah, the next step will be in the next draft, the the timeline of these. we'll put in this matrix. And if there are thoughts that you want to talk about on that timeline for any, I'll just go back up to the main matrix here so we can see them all, well, at least some of them at once. If you have any thoughts, we can discuss it or just let us know, and or we can wait until we do the draft for that and review it at the next meeting.
So what timelines are you looking for, Courtney?
I was just wondering if, you had any recommendations on, what should kind of come first in this timeline. But it sounds like you're going to draft that part next. So I don't want to put you on the spot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have off the top of my head like a sequencing thing, and Jen might have something in mind, but in her current state, I'm sure she wouldn't want to talk about it either. So but we will get that to you for the next one.
Okay.
I've also put up the schedule here just to review. Here we're today meeting to review the draft. After this, we'll revise it, and the next deadline is January 6th for the next draft. And we'll want to meet with another joint meeting to review that draft. And there were a couple of dates in mind, and we can also do this by email, but the 18th, 19th, and 27th of January were the dates that Jen sent as to see if one of those three might work for that joint meeting in January.
Just a step back. So
Yeah.
the 1/6 is just a submission date, or is that also a meeting and your date, or is that just a submission date and you're looking for now a joint meeting date?
Yeah, sorry, that's the submission date. So by January 6th, we'll have the next draft incorporating everything we talked about tonight, as well as anything else you send us, in this month, basically, or if there's other thoughts or things you notice in the document, feel free to just send them by email. And as well as that timeline, a sequencing matrix. So yeah, that'll all be in that next draft by the 6th, and then we'd want to meet later in January to go over that draft with planning
Andrew,
board.
did you have dates that you were for the January? I'm just trying to coordinate with those other boards, and it's
Yeah.
like herding cats. So
Yes, absolutely. The dates that Jen proposed were the 18th, 19th, or 27th of January to
Okay.
start and see if one of those three would work.
Yeah.
So I can send those along by email so we have them written down, but those
Yeah,
are the
that'd
ones,
be great.
I'll send an email after the meeting. But those are, what we're looking at from her end that would work the best if one of those three would work for you.
Jody,
Yes.
I think I either got it from you or Beth today that maybe it was Beth. She's thinking that we're having a joint meeting. That the housing authority and the planning board are going to have a joint meeting. And
I saw
did
that
send
too.
Yep, I did send out an
Okay.
email because I read that 6th as the joint meeting,
That's
but I'll
what I
just resend to that board. I didn't hear back from the selectmen anyways, so I thought the 6th was going to be tough to accomplish as it was.
Okay.
So I'll just send that out tomorrow after Andrew sends me those dates and see if I can hammer
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, that does look like it's also on the 6th on this timeline. So I'll send those dates out in a few minutes here. So I think that's probably all I need to be sharing my screen about. Anything else? What are people's thoughts? If there's anything else you want us to consider, like I said, we can talk about it, or feel free to send an email anytime to Jen or I or both. I see.
Yeah,
Lori.
I'm gonna I'll get the what I have. I know that even running it by the chair of the water commissioners, I think, just to get a thumbs up. All I want is a thumbs up before we do anything else. But I think what they have, or the water department's perspective plans is definitely, like Lori said, it's going to affect the housing in the next 3 to 5 years. And if they are doing that great expanse, I agree, it's going to affect the housing.
Yeah, definitely. We'll be in touch about that, and
Lori's got her hand up. so-
Yeah, I just saw that.
Sorry, I forgot to put it down.
Oh, that's good.
Okay. Thought you had to go to the little restroom or something. I'm good. I would thank you for continuing the work that you guys are doing, and just reiterate what I said last time is that I'm very impressed with the quality of work, and you're really helping us, the housing authority, but I can also say that you're helping the town as well, because we really need this quality kind of work to be able to get the funding that we need.
Yeah, well, we're happy to work with you guys, and I'm glad that overall it seems to be going pretty nicely. And yeah, it's been cool. It's been very nice to work with you all, and I also think that it's going to be great.
Good.
So, thanks a lot
Well,
for your time, and
Yeah.
let me know if you need anything in the meantime.
Yeah, no, thank you, Andrew, and appreciate it, and have a good holiday.
Yeah.
We'll look forward to seeing the new draft.
Yep. We'll see you in January, and I'll send out those dates now by email.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Any other comments before we move on? Good. Okay. So under number 3, the work session, 3.1 master plan housing chapter review, which is under Lori. I think we started to discuss this. So just let me know if you guys have any other thoughts on that one before we go on.
I don't have any other comments. I kind of made them during his presentation.
Mhm.
Okay.
Can I ask Courtney?
Yep.
Where's the planning board in the whole master plan thing, Lori?
I don't think we're anywhere. Well, we have this last draft. It was not, I think I chaired the last meeting for Lance at the last minute.
Yeah.
And the master plan was not reviewed at that meeting.
Okay, so I didn't miss anything.
No, so I think it was the meeting before where I actually think I missed the meeting before because yeah, I was not in attendance at the last one, and I think that Kim and somebody else was there. The meeting before that, I was there and they weren't there. So I can't help you out anymore on that.
Okay, because I was at that meeting. And then the last meeting I had to watch virtually because I was double booked. So,
Yeah, there wasn't anything at the last meeting.
all right, so how about if I touch base with you offline in regards to what my thoughts are, and then we can bring it up in our next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we do that sometime next week?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
We
awesome.
can do it next year if you want.
Okay, that's all right. with you. Pam just gave me my next dose of stuff. She says hi.
Hi, PM.
Hi, Quan. Hi.
Okay, 3.2 MBTA community zoning.
I sent you, well, I sent to Jody, and Jody sent out the, what I received in regards to, the MBTA, thoughts on the MBTA. What I was wondering is if you guys wanted to set up something, or actually send something to the zoning board and ask for what they would like to, if they would like to meet with us and talk to us about it, or I want to somehow get in paper or officially that we had received this. This is something that needs to be looked at as far as zoning for the town is concerned, and send it over there. What are your thoughts on it?
I think it comes first from planning,
Okay.
because zoning, unfortunately, they need to understand everything, all of these different policies and whatnot, but they're reactionary. They're not proactive. It's the planning board that's proactive. So really the crust of everything that's going to happen in the future is going to start with the planning board and its recommendations to the Board of Selectmen and then to the townspeople to vote on. And they have to start doing that. You know, it has
So
to.
we, as a housing authority, can we submit something to the planning board and say, this needs to be looked at, or I'm not really sure how to get it rolling.
That's how it gets rolling. I mean, okay, so the housing authority is in charge of increased housing, you know, promoting it, blah, blah, blah. We can't do this without the cooperation of planning to work in conjunction with the new laws.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I'll make a motion that we present to the planning board these issues that are coming up. We're gonna be going over the housing production plan with them.
Mhm.
And we are looking for their cooperation in promoting this cooperative effort of obtaining the housing goals for Townsend.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, that's succinct enough for you? Joel's talking too. Walking and talking.
I'm not gonna argue.
Wait, can I get a
Did you
roll
hear
call?
her? She's
Can I
not
get a-
arguing with that.
Okay,
Can we get a roll call vote on that one?
Natalie Cole, yes.
Laura Schifrin, yes.
Chaz Sexton Duranian, yes.
And Courtney Brelli, yes.
So now, do we want to do it separate from our housing production plan, or do we want to do it in the same meeting?
I think we can give the planning board a heads up that
Okay.
this is our motion. It'll be part of our minutes. That we are sending this to them. I think Jody can take care of that. And then it's not a surprise when we're talking about our housing plan.
Okay, that's a
Okay.
good idea. Okay.
And we're already all together. It feels like a good opportunity then, right?
Right, exactly.
I just want to officially get it on the record that we passed it over so that when we make reference to it, they didn't say, I never saw that. That's kind of what I'm trying to circumvent.
All about communicating.
Mhm.
Okay, any other discussion on that one?
Nope.
Okay. 3.3, the town webpage discussion. I think we're still kicking this can down the road, unfortunately. So I think we'll keep this one on the agenda and talk about it again next time.
I haven't looked at it lately. Has the town corrected the IT or whatever needed to be done?
Yep.
Thank you.
3.4, bills payable. Do we have any? Joy?
No, it's been the invoices for Goldson, and Chaz has been signing them, so we're good right now.
Yeah.
I think we're all caught up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've been
because I
seeing,
got the last one, I want to say last week, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep. So, and I just signed that for Ed during the, when I was doing the warrant, so we should be all set.
3.5, correspondence and clerk's announcements. We did get a couple things sent over from you, Jody, right?
Yeah, I think the most important one was the annual town report.
Right,
was
I
the
saw
biggest
that.
memo. I don't think I had much else. Maybe a ZBA notice of decision. But yeah, just to note that the annual report is due, I guess, by the end of January.
So Courtney,
Yep.
do you want to take a shot at it?
Yeah, I'm certainly willing to. I can take the draft at it if you guys don't mind. If somebody doesn't mind taking a look at it after that, because I do not admit to be the best writer, but I will certainly go ahead and take the first draft of that one.
Okay,
I
so,
will be happy to help edit.
Great.
yeah, we can all look at it. The board will have to approve it before you send it to, or Jody sends it on to anyone. But Jody, can you make sure that she has? the
I was
last
just gonna say
copy?
last year's draft, Courtney.
Yeah.
I'll send you last year's draft.
Yeah, I definitely remember seeing it too, so I probably have it around here somewhere. But yeah, if you don't mind resending it, have it. I can take.
Well, we sent in, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jody, because I wrote 2019 and I wrote 2020, and I only saw 2020. I never saw the 2019, and I know I wrote it, and I know I submitted it.
I mean, I have no comment on that. If you think you did, I'm sure I submitted it as
I know I
well.
did.
No
I
idea.
know I did, but you know, the book that came out that had both years in it, I think they only printed 2020 or 2020. So
Well,
just
you
want to
know.
make that comment.
Yep. We could all make comments about it. Probably all point to the same place. Thank you.
Alrighty then.
Okay.
I also want to, if we could bring up the email that Jody, that you had forwarded to us too.
Yep. About 9 Coppersmith,
Yes.
that one.
I think that we should establish some sort of procedure or protocol for Jody so she knows what to follow when these particular requests come through. Laura, you had said something about we have something at town hall, or is there an established procedure that somebody has to follow holding a affordable housing or a deed restriction on their home?
All the deeds that are done for the affordable housing units in whatever 40B,
Mhm.
okay, has a deed restriction.
Yeah.
It's part of the whole thing. Now, I don't have a copy in front of me of their deed, but they should look at their deed. Their deed will tell them. And then also, CHAPA, the organization itself, can give the homeowner or the agent or whoever all the information they need.
Okay, so what I'm looking at is that if somebody calls Jody and says, I have blah, 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 and it looks like CHAPA, then
Oh,
Jody
there's
can,
yeah, there's
so
a,
Jody can point them in the right direction is what I'm,
yeah, and there is a, well, also Jody can look up one of the deeds for a property in Coppersmith, let's say, and see how that's drafted. You know,
Mhm.
in fact, everybody, we should probably all be familiar with it on the board. You don't
Yep.
have to have names, you don't have to have the address, but certainly all the verbiage of what it says, probably should all be familiar with it. And then the restrictions, CHAPA itself will tell them how to maneuver the sale or the marketing. But after a year of marketing, which has to be proven, so I don't know if it's like from the list date, it's probably from the list date. So from that date, 1 year, if it doesn't get sold at the affordable price, then it goes to market value, which is how we lost 2
right,
in that same development.
right. Now, this is something that I know that the planning board was talking about. in regards to the master plan is finding ways that we can try to make sure that that doesn't happen, that it doesn't go to a regular sale. Because if a regular sale does happen, anything above market price, isn't it supposed to go back to the housing authority?
Yeah, because it goes to future affordable housing.
Correct, but
There's
that
no
has not
profit.
been happening. It
Yeah.
hasn't been happening.
I know, and I'm not sure why that hasn't, maybe because we didn't have a trust. I don't
Right.
know.
Right,
But now that we do, and we need those funds, it was just like that 10,000 we were supposed to get after the opening of Townsend Woods.
yeah, from CHAPA.
Yeah, and all of a sudden it went to La La Land,
Well, I think it went into the general fund.
right, in Townsend, rather than towards the efforts that the housing authority put into the construction there, and we lost it to general fund, which
Correct.
should not have happened.
So this, Courtney, is what I'm kind of thinking that we might need to do, is to figure out to have, so we're all familiar with what to say if we're asked with that question. And B, I think it would give Jody some direction so that she can take it upon herself to, if it's a listing agent that's calling her, she can point them in the right direction. Jody, am I saying that right?
Yeah, I mean, so far what I've got is the deed restrictions. I get the mass land, but this particular person, I was just looking up that email that I sent out. She's saying the deed states that it needs to be offered to the municipality. So I guess from there, what's the next step? Am I telling her like, yeah, give us that back?
I want to
We
read
won
that.
the lottery.
Now,
What is?
I want to read that. I want to see that in the deed. And
Well,
read-
why don't I pull the deed and I'll send that to you tomorrow, and then you can point me in the direction and I'll go in it.
Okay. Chaz, do you know how familiar Ross is with affordable housing?
He's familiar with it.
So-
I don't know if he's an expert at it, but I know that he's familiar with it.
Well, once Jody gets the deed and sends it over to you, maybe copy Ross and see if he is familiar with what this means by municipality.
Okay.
Because to me, municipality means the governance of the town or the board of selectmen.
Right.
If that's the case, well, and it is part of our affordable housing count. Well, we know we can't buy it. Okay. So what is the process?
We would be able to, this is where the affordable trust comes in. We would be able to allow transfer to the affordable trust to have them market it more as an affordable unit.
Okay. So find out if that's the process, because we've never done it before.
Do we have a contact at CHAPA that we could get in touch with about it?
I'm sure there is. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
we did. We had the gentleman that came and talked with us that time, a couple of years ago.
Oh, when we wanted to do, oh yeah. At the open forum that we had?
Yep.
That's the one that told us about our $10,000.
Yes, and then never returned our phone calls.
Right,
No?
right. Okay. All right. Well, we'll find out. I think the biggest thing, and thanks to Chaz, is that we have the trust now. Separate entity that is in charge of, that can now own property, can now accept money, and can act to keep affordable housing going.
Right. We won't lose something. We would be able to retain it with the, bless you. We'd be able to retain it within the trust, and then be able to, it's the same thing with land too. Town properties can turn land over to the trust. The trust then can see what they can do to market it to have, affordability. And even if they feel, to build, Habitat Humanity is another one. I think we should be starting to apply for them too on some of the parcels that we do have available, to see if they're interested in building something. I would like to do a little more investigation. I mean, it's not that I have all this free time in the world right now, but I'd like to see if Habitat for Humanity is looking into helping with cluster neighborhoods or pocket neighborhoods or something like that. There's a big uptick in these mini homes. And I think that's something too that we would be able to put in some of the remote areas that we have that have buildable land in Townsend.
As long as we can get that town water in front of it.
Yep.
You know, we could have a shared system there for 4 little houses or 6 little houses.
Exactly.
You know, okay, perfect.
You know, in the grand scheme of things, Lori, you know, the planning effort that I see with the town, you know, even though the housing authority is a small piece of that in general, what we really need to see is that we need to develop housing for the age bracket that we don't have in town right now. And that would be apartments or these small houses or affordable housing, to be able to get these individuals to stay in town. For instance, you have your children in your house, your children get old, they're going to move on their own. They want to get their own place. They're not going to go out and buy a house. They're going to go out and look for an apartment. Townsend doesn't have any apartments. So these youngsters, listen to me like I'm an old poop. They get out and they'll move into a different area and find an where there is an apartment. And a lot of times, because they're moving in a different area where that apartment is, they tend to settle there. So if we can have a place where these younger people can settle, they'll stay here longer. So if we have apartments or affordable housing for them to stay here, the probability of keeping them in Townsend is much greater. That's kind of my philosophy behind what we need to do about these pocket neighborhoods and cluster housing and that kind of stuff.
You know, there's really some opportunities, I believe, on Main Street, on Route 119, where there is town water, where we could encourage some apartment housing.
Yep.
You know, small housing type of thing that would be a little more affordable. But see, if it's new construction, it's going to be a fortune. I'm going to tell you right now.
Yeah, well, right now with the way things are, I agree with you.
Well, the cost of materials alone and transportation of those materials alone kind of forget the cost of labor, you know, because you can't even get people to work. They'd rather sit home, but it's tough. It's tough, but we'll keep trying.
Yeah, hey, that's what we do.
Okay. 3.6, meeting minutes. I didn't have any particular comments. Did anyone else?
Nope. I'll actually move to approve October 14th, 2021 minutes.
I'll second.
Roll call vote, please.
Natalie Cole, yes.
Laura Schifrin, yes.
Just Sexton Duranian, yes.
Courtney Brown. Okay. Any comments on the November 18th meeting minutes?
No, I move that we approve November 18th, 2021 minutes.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Natalie Cole, yes.
Laura Schifrin, yes.
Just Sexton Duranian, yes.
And Courtney Brown, yes.
Again, Jody, you did a stellar job, my dear. Thank you very much.
Well, before you say that, I want to clarify what you guys want me to send to planning. Lori, I love you, but that motion you made was probably not something. If I send that to Beth, she's going to say, what are you talking about? So tell me, I'm just trying to be precise and a little bit more concise when I'm telling what do you want me to tell planning?
Okay. I'm going to write the motion.
Oh, I love that.
Okay, and go over the text. Second the motion. and then send it out to everyone.
All right, then. That's
Okay.
great.
And I'm
I love it.
sorry, I'm so all over the place. I know what I'm saying, but nobody else does. But hey, Chaz seconded it, so it had to make sense to somebody.
Hey, it made sense to me.
Okay, does that work for you, Chaz? I will try to put that in an email back to you.
All right. Basically, we just want to talk to them. We want to have a conversation with them.
Yeah, but basically, we're looking for them to be proactive in our collaboration with increased housing for Townsend
Correct.
goals. I mean, is that concise enough?
I
That's
like
like
that.
not
Yeah.
even 6 words.
That's direct and to the point.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're good with that, I mean, that's all we want is a cooperative effort to increase our housing goals.
Yeah.
And they're the body that needs to be proactive in this, in supporting those goals.
And with that, we're kind of attaching that kind of piece that Chaz got with it, right? To kind of support that piece so that they have that.
Yep, the letter from the state for the
Yes.
MBTA communities.
You know, but we're not an MBTA community.
We are.
Where is it?
So it's, I'd have to look back at it on when we looked at this before, but we are within so many like miles, but I actually think we're listed as like almost like in a butter sort of.
Yeah. It's
Right,
I forget
because-
what their term is, but yeah.
Yeah, we are listed as one though, Lori.
So is the Roadrunner part of the MBTA?
I think it's because we're close to Air, the Air station.
Air or Shirley, one, no,
Or
Shirley.
Air-
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So
Yeah.
people can drive there to get on the MBTA.
Yes, what they're looking at is having zoning changed for areas that are the closest to the MBTA, have relaxed zoning so that they're able to commute there.
Okay,
Well, it's also it's requiring us to have it. That's the thing. It's not even,
yeah,
it's not so much it's telling us we have to, I believe. And I definitely found it last time on where we were listed as one. So
Yeah,
I
it's on
can,
the state site.
oh yeah, it is here. If you click on the link at the very bottom of the one that Chaz forwarded, there's a map right in the middle of the page that does list us there.
okay. So I think my confusion was, you know, we don't have a train in town. We don't have a bus route. We don't have, I don't even think we can get an Uber in Townsend. But
Well,
now I understand.
But here's the thing, Lori, this is, I think, an opportunity for us to be able to establish a park and ride and see if we can get busing from maybe Townsend Center to the commuter rail.
Uh-huh.
You know, having a park and ride somewhere where, you know, it's not, you know, there's a parcel of land that's out by Hannaford's in the back that's like no man's land. They could throw a parking lot in there and have a park and ride. That's relatively close.
Yeah, you're right.
So we're listed under here. It's calling it MBTA adjacent. That's what they're calling it now.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, that
Before it was something different, but adjacent is better, it sounds.
I think it was called other served communities before.
Yeah,
but
it was like the redheaded stepchild kind of thing.
yeah, we're MBTA. So
okay, understand.
Okay.
Are we clear, Jody, or do I need to, do I need to still send an email, or are we good?
Well, what I'm going to do is jot down my interpretation of what you said, then send it out for your blessing, and then I'll send it to planning. How does that sound?
Great. Love it.
Okay.
I'm gonna say less words from now on.
Okay. 3.7, 2022 meeting schedule. So I have drafted a little schedule that's roughly on the third Thursday of every month for 2022. And that's only just to help us like hold time in calendars, because sometimes I find as we pick, you know, dates as we go, it's a little bit trickier. Now, the only one that we just kind of completely are screwing up here is the January one that kind of starts off as normally we would fall on the 20th in this case. So I think we'll have to kind of modify that one. But otherwise, if you guys are not opposed to it, I'd like to kind of propose a every third Thursday schedule, and we can always the month before decide whether or not that's needed, but at least we have those held in calendars, and I can send you guys a list of those dates.
I'm good with that.
I'm good with that. I think that the 20th was one of the dates that
I
got
think he had
out.
I think he had the 18th, 19th, and 27th. Was that right?
Oh,
Yeah.
27.
Yeah, so that'll be the one that's off right now, but and is that okay to just send out to you guys for now for just a hold, but we can confirm it at each meeting as we go. Okay.
Okay.
All
Did
right,
you
so
ask me a question? No. Okay, I'm sorry.
that's okay. I just want to make sure we don't need to like formally post it or anything. But I can give you guys at least hold dates, and we can confirm it at each meeting for the next one to just make sure we're on track for it. Does that work?
Okay, I'm good with that. I just got an email from Andrew. That's why I was like, he was confirming something about the water thing with me. So.
Okay. All right. So I'll send you guys those dates for 2022, and everybody will have them then held for that time. Okay.
Sounds good.
And it sounds like we'll just need to confirm our next meeting, obviously, once we kind of check in with the other boards on those pieces.
Yeah, if I'm gonna start working on that, if not tomorrow, Monday, I'll resend and try to get those other boards going. I'm thinking that is the 27th, and I don't have a calendar in front of me, is a Thursday.
It
I
is.
think, I think that's probably going to be the most ideal date for the other boards because they don't typically meet on that night. But let me work on it and get back to you.
You know what, if I may, Madam Chair, I think we might want to have Jody ask for a Zoom for the 27th, just in case.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Jody.
Definitely.
No problem. Okay.
All right, and I believe that is all I have on our agenda for tonight.
Well, before we adjourn, I just want to say happy holidays to everyone here. We had the tree lighting. I hope you guys saw the video. If you haven't, go on the YouTube channel and see. It was a virtual lighting in the common, and I hope that we can do it in person. Last Saturday, Santa came to visit town. He rode around town in his sleigh and then met all the kids in downtown. They had this big, huge blow-up chair that he sat in. It was pretty cool. But happy holidays to everybody, and thank you very, very much for all your hard work. I know that I appreciate it. Can't speak for anybody else, but I know that a lot of people in town appreciate all the work that you all are doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Happy
Thank you for
holidays.
all of your work.
So I make a motion that we adjourn at 8:28.
I second the motion.
Roll call vote, please.
Natalie Cole, yes.
Laura Schifrin, yes.
Chad Sexton Duranian, yes.
And Courtney Rell, yes. Thank you, everyone.